Hello everyone, my name's Katherine. I am the Senior Research and Innovation Manager at Hampshire and Wight Integrated Care Board, and I'd like to hand over to my colleague Jess.
Hi, I'm Jess. I'm a community researcher at Action Hampshire. We're a local infrastructure organisation, so basically a charity that supports other charities. Raising Voices in Research is funded by NHS England as part of the BREN network, and it is delivered by a partnership of organisations. I just realised I was doing what I was told not to do and move my head without the microphone. A partnership of organisations, Hampshire and Isle of Wight Integrated Care Board, ourselves, University Hospital Southampton NHS Foundation Trust, and the Engaging Communities Research Centre at the University of Winchester. So the aim of Raising Voices in Research is to increase underserved communities' participation in health and social care research, and how we do this is to work with the VCSE organisations that are embedded within these communities that we aim to reach, and they're often part of the communities that we aim to reach. Throughout the different phases of the project, we have engaged with a variety of different communities. So these are all the organisations that we've worked with, and they support carers, young people, neurodivergent people, LGBTQ+ communities, a host of different communities, and you can see them, all there. So what have we done? In the first phase, we funded 11 VCSE organisations to deliver 2 workshops with their community members to understand their needs and perceptions around participating in health research. The insights that they shared back then formed a local plan for research, and that details 7 themes that were consistent across the communities, but also the nuances between them as well, and what they needs to be able to take part. As well as that, we co-produced communications toolkits, so the messages that people want to see that will encourage them to take part, and we also established a research collaborative. So it's a network of VCSEs, community members and researchers and research organisations to talk about best practice for engaging underserved communities in research. We then, in phase 2, did this again, and we worked with 8 new organisations that work with communities we didn't reach in the first phase, and then co-produced a revised edition of the local plan for research. We continued the research collaborative and also did a research adaptation programme. So we matched the VCSE organisations we were working with a researcher who had a live research opportunity to adapt that research based on the needs identified within the local plan. And finally, within the phase that we've just done, we've developed the partnership. I forgot to talk about the training. We've also co-developed some training for researchers on developing community-led research, which we then have adapted in this third phase, so it's appropriate for VCSEs as well to build their capacity.
Okay, so a big part of and I've worked in engagement involvement for quite some time now, is actually finding out whether or not people have taken part previously and whether or not they have interest to continue taking part in research. And what we found in our first phase was 80% had never taken part in a research study before. But what it led to is taking part in these workshops and these activities was a high confidence and a high willingness to engage in future research, and also this high agreement that research was important. But what we did identify is going into our second phase is that we were missing certain groups, particularly young people, particularly people from LGBTQ+ organisations, and those experiencing homelessness, refugees and asylum seekers. So we made again a change to look at involving younger people, people from different ethnicities, and people with a different sexual identity too. Again, we had a high percentage, 84%, who'd never taken part in a research study before, but again, this led to high confidence and high willingness to engage in future research. However, this was not without problems. As Helena mentioned, these are project-based, so they were short time frames. We could engage with who we could engage with, and through the wonderful support of Action Hampshire, we had a VCSE champion who was able to help us make those connections and move further on. But also issues existed with the research adaptation programme, that not every programme and project was ready to engage, and it depended if that researcher was able to do things, often finding issues with having to go back to ethics or not being able to make changes to a study that was too far along.
So this is a picture sort of the programme overview. Like I say, we've had phase 1, 2, 3, and we're now moving into phase 4 from April onwards. As well as this, we've had a couple of what I'd term like sister projects. So Shaping the Conversation was funded by the, at that point, Clinical Research Network, and it was around understanding 12 VCSEs or their community's research priorities. And then we had a sandpit event where we brought them together with stakeholders and other researchers to sort of build up some projects, and 5 projects have come from that. And also starting in January of this year, we've been funded by the ARC to do Raising Voice in Research mentoring project. So it's bringing all these different parts of Raising Voices, that have, all the successful parts that we've learned from the evaluation, to understand communities' mental health research priorities, and then again either adapt or develop new research opportunities.
Cool. And our final slide is sort of where we are now, and a bit like Helena, where we're going. So we have been successful in receiving 30k interim funding to enable us to continue these activities over the summer, and the NHSE team has asked particularly that we begin to pivot towards primary care and community care research, looking at what we've done previously and how we can now adapt it for those communities, which is why it's really lovely to be here today. Like I said, that focus on primary care is really coming through. We've also recently had our first meeting of the Strategic Advisory Group for Raising Voices in Research that a number of partners are now involved in, which is really exciting. People who've maybe not been involved in Raising Voices. But otherwise, yes, just how can we work together and how can we collaborate better for our communities in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. Thank you.